Regular meeting of the Board of Education for December 14th. This meeting is now called to order. Mrs. Smith, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, Dr. Blau.
Here.
Mr. Rich.
Here.
I myself, I'm here. Ms. Heinrich.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
And Ms. Weems.
I am here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I failed to ask a student to lead us. So we will lead ourselves in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I see Alyssa here. I can always count on Alyssa going forward. So, okay, we will now move to item 2, approval of the agenda. Mr. Rich?
Thank you. I move that we approve the agenda for today's regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mrs. Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you. Before we get into the rest of our agenda and announcements, I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that this is the first meeting we've had since the tragedy that was experienced in our neighboring community in Oxford. Obviously, we are saddened for those who lost their lives or were injured, and our thoughts are with them and their families and the community. Our thoughts are also with everyone who has been impacted or traumatized by these events. Dr. Delgado, would you mind saying a few words and maybe leading us in a moment?
Thank you, President Weems. I do want to acknowledge that our hearts are still heavy as we continue to grieve the tragedy in our extended community in Oxford. What we see occur during crisis is the best in people as they rise up to help each other. This community, Farmington and Farmington Hills, is a special place and has provided outreach and support for Oxford and to each other. And I'd like to thank you all. I'm especially proud of our staff and our students. Thank you to our entire staff for your calm and supportive leadership for students, for families, and each other during these last few weeks. You know, several students reached out to me directly with ideas and recommendations that I so appreciated. And I'd like to read my response to one young lady who shared with me that her belief is that the best defense is prevention. And I responded to her, I couldn't agree more. Prevention comes in many forms. Prevention starts with making sure every student feels welcome, supported, connected, and cared for by someone at school. Whether it's your peer group, a teacher, a trusted coach, a counselor, a secretary, or a custodian, making sure each of you has someone to talk to is prevention. Prevention is also communicating to those trusted adults so law enforcement can investigate any potential threats. I want to thank our community for keeping your ear to the ground, for using the OK to Say tip line, and for communicating frequently to our school leaders and our law enforcement officials so we can investigate. And I shared, and prevention also involves preparation. We have an extensive amount of safety drills, protocols, and training, including active shooter preparations. And I want to thank our school resource officers, as well as our Farmington and Farmington Hills police departments for their partnership in helping to keep us safe. And I ended my email back to this young lady by saying, I appreciate you reaching out, and I want to encourage you to keep reaching out to me personally, to your administrators, your teachers, your parents, or the police, or anyone if you see or hear any of these threats. Let's work together to keep each other safe. I hope you are doing okay today. And I hope we're each doing okay today. Sometimes that's all you can ask, is to be okay one day at a time. And so with that, I'd ask you to take a moment of silence as we lift up our hearts to the Oxford community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado. We will now move to announcements. Welcome to the December 14th Farmington Board of Education regular meeting. Our next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on January 11th, 2022. Wow, a new year. At 6 p.m. The meeting is open to the public and will be cable cast live on TV 10. The district will be closed for the holiday from Monday, December 20th through Friday, December 31st. School will reconvene January 3rd. So many are in need of a break. The board would like to wish all of our students, parents, staff, and community members a happy holiday and a safe and enjoyable break. Farmington Public Schools has a vision for high achievement for all of its students. Together with our community, we will engage every student in a quality learning experience, empowering each student to become a thoughtful, contributing citizen in a changing world. Please remember to silence all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. In addition, out of courtesy to those in the audience, we ask that you refrain from sidebar conversations and that you step out in the hallway if you feel the need to carry on a conversation. Thank you for your cooperation. For the safety of those in the room that are immunocompromised and to align with the Oakland County masking requirement for staff and students, we ask that all community members wear a mask. If you choose not to wear a mask, we have a room set up in down the hall with a large screen TV that will stream this meeting. If you wish to express a public comment, you may return to this room at that time, express your comment, and then please return to the viewing room. Public comment request cards are available in the back of the room and in the viewing room. If you would like to speak during public comment, please fill out a card and place it in the ceramic bowl next to Mrs. Buckley. Public comments will be shared after discussion items. This will be the opportunity to share general comments. If the public comment is intended to be critical of or express dissatisfaction with a particular staff member, student, or group, you are encouraged not to identify the person by name. You may request a private meeting with district representatives or utilize the complaint process found in our policy manual. Generally, board members and the superintendent will not respond to public comments during the board meeting. Issues may be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, and/or response. We will now move to board goals. At each of our board meetings, we review the goals that we established for ourselves at the beginning of the year and our progress towards those goals. These goals were developed for the 2021-22 school year. The first goal is around board education. We had several items that we wanted to accomplish by December 31st, and we have accomplished all of those goals by December 31st. Congratulations. The first one, yes, is a round of applause. And just so you know, I'm not clapping for myself, I'm clapping for my colleagues because they did a great job. So this first one is huge. We wanted the board to be certified. That means that each board member has taken at least the first 9 100 courses that the Michigan Association of School Boards recommends in order to get a person certified as a board member. These classes help a new board member understand everything that there is, not everything there is, but much of what there is to be learned about being a board member, about governance, about school finance, about law, about curriculum, and a host of other things. It takes a long time to get through all of those courses, and then there are even more courses that you can take in the spirit of continuous improvement and learning. And all of our board members, for the first time in forever, are certified, which means that not only are each of us individually certified, but MASB recognizes this board as a certified board, which is outstanding. We also had a few other education goals. We wanted to be trained by the MASB Superintendent Evaluation Tool. That is complete. We wanted to improve our data literacy. We devote at least 1 hour at each of our quarterly retreats. We just had one this past weekend, this past Saturday on December, what was that, 11th? And so we have been doing that. This is maybe the second or third retreat that we've had. Where we're focusing on data and literacy. The board also wanted to participate in a 21-day equity challenge, and we've completed that. So everything we wanted to complete by 12/31, we've done. So we've got some more things to do through 6/30, but I have no doubt we will get to that. The next goal was around innovation, and we've met all of our goals there. The legislative committee met on December 7th. We'll hear a report from that. We've invited legislators to present at our board, which will happen over the course of the year. We continue relationship building, and thank you to the Communications and Community Engagement Committee. I know that you guys are preparing a summary of what you've been doing, and we'll share that with the board. So we've accomplished that. On the board goal 3, which is around vision and strategy, we've completed that as well. Each of us are attending strategic planning sessions, and we'll continue to do that throughout the rest of the year. And then as it relates to community engagement, the committee has developed a plan for the year, and will be sharing with us before the end of the year. So really quickly, again, I just want to acknowledge this board. A year ago, it's no secret that the board was fractured, and no doubt that had an impact on our system. Zach Rich, Angie Smith, and I, who have been on the board for a few years, have worked really hard since that time to cultivate a productive and collaborative environment, and I sincerely appreciate you guys' leadership there. I also want to commend our new board members for their support, for their service. I'm truly grateful to you. You guys came into service amid chaos, amid a volume of work that's not normal for school boards in a COVID environment. Together, in less than a year, we seated 4 new board members. We interviewed and selected a new superintendent. We've navigated through COVID protocols, learning plans, participated in numerous learning sessions during the day, nights, and weekends, and it's paying off. It's paying off. We are not only a certified board, but we are an effective board, and that is no doubt truly outstanding, and you guys are really to be commended. So congratulations. This feels really, really good, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. At this time, I am going to turn over chairing of the meeting to Zach Rich, because unfortunately I do have a work event a little later on, and I don't want to have to change over later and be disruptive. But I thought it was really important to be here today, and I wanted to make sure that we got through our goals together. Thank you for that. Mr. Rich, would you please move us through the rest of our agenda?
I can definitely do that. We are going to move on to items from the secretary. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. The board has received communications regarding the Farmington Public Schools proclamation and Visions Unlimited holiday sale. Communications are acknowledged, and when appropriate, a response is provided. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, which is available on the Farmington Public Schools website.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next is report from the Student Roundtable President. We have the Student Roundtable President here, so you can come on up.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
First, I just want to say excuse my appearance.
I know it's
Yes.
90s day, isn't it?
Yes, but, sorry. I just came from practice, so I'm not in 90s clothes anymore. But your daughter, she was in her 90s clothes.
See that?
So today we had our December meeting, and in our meeting we were able to narrow down to a goal for a year for our students, and we decided to focus on IST sessions and how we can maximize our time that we're given every week during IST. So we came to the conclusion to make an IST where we could implement speakers and more activities for students to do, the ones who are already above and beyond their work, but then those who need the help with their work can go to their teachers, and these teachers can have more of a one-on-one session, and while the other students are out learning and even receiving more of a, let's say, brain break, we called it, and have this time for themselves. So that is one of our goals for to start second semester.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
Are you still doing the event at the GoodFellows this Saturday?
We are not. No, that was canceled.
Okay, because I was going to come, so I'm glad I asked.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Rich.
I just want to say first, as Ms. Weems was saying, we are definitely, it's a much different energy on this board than it was a year ago, and I think everyone can tell that just by seeing this. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. We're sorry.
It's okay.
We're not trying to be unprofessional, but we're just acknowledging that Ms. Weems was supposed to be leaving, and then Mr. Rich is. I want to say thank you so much for all of your hard work that you have done this year, and especially as a senior. We know that it has been difficult for you as a student to try to do all of the above. Just imagine, what the rest of your, peers are going through and doing as well. But thank you, and I wish you and your family and the rest of the students on the Student Roundtable a very happy holidays and a safe new year, and can't wait to see you next year. And thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Henry?
Yeah, I just wanted to address Dr. Blau's about the GoodFellows. Because the nature of the GoodFellows, the volunteers are all senior citizens. We're the ones that ask the students not to come to the building. And I just want to recognize that Dr. Delgado and Diane Bowman actually took some thank you cards to write, and I can hook you up with some directly
Okay.
if you want to.
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that Dr. Delgado and I attended the student roundtable today, and I'm just overwhelmed by how such young people are reflecting on different things, how they're thinking about things that I know when I was, 10 and 11th grade, I wasn't thinking about those kinds of things. So I'm just so very impressed. One of the things that caught my eye today was when Dr. Delgado asked the group of about 30 or so students at the round table, he asked these students, he said, what do you wish you knew? What do you wish you knew or had learned in middle school to make the transition to high school easier? So I jot down a couple of things as I listened to some of the students in the area that I was sitting in. And let me just say a few things that they're just amazing to me. The first thing I heard was control only what you can control. I didn't get that figured out until I was about 30. Okay. Little things doesn't matter. As a freshman, it is important to really understand that grades really matter. Learning about time management in order to be successful. And one of the things that they want to do is would like to have heard about the AP courses in middle school, because many of the students are not aware of AP courses once they get into high school. And then last but not least, being yourself when there is peer pressure. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for being at our meeting as well.
Seeing no other comments, I think you are good to go. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is the legislative update. We had previously had State Senator Jeremy Moss and State Representative Samantha Steckloff planning to come and present tonight. Unfortunately, they are still in session and are probably going to be in session for another few hours in Lansing. So unfortunately, they were not able to make it. They had also wanted to join the student roundtable today, but once again, session continued throughout the day. So we are hoping to see them in January to give a legislative update as to where we are as everything's starting to change and hear some updates from them as to what they want to know from us, what they need us to tell them. And so we look forward to having them at a future board meeting. Dr. Blau, do you have any other legislative updates?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Great. With that, we're going to move on to district updates. Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. And I have the pleasure first of doing a recognition. If I could have Jacob Marchionda come up to the podium here, wherever you feel least comfortable. While I talk about you. Jacob Marchionda, senior at North Farmington High School, is one of only 6 students in the United States that was asked to present virtually on a K-12 student panel at the NICE K-12 Cybersecurity Conference. This conference, supported by the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, NICE is the acronym, and hosted by I Keep Safe, brings together members of the K-12 educational ecosystem in support of growing the cybersecurity workforce of the future. Jacob is an active participant in the cybersecurity program. In his junior year, he won a scholarship via the CyberStart America Cyber Game and has been an active member as team captain for the Cyber Patriot Career and Technical Student Organization for the last 2 years. He plans to major in cybersecurity IT in his college or university of choice. Jacob has been a stellar student in our cybersecurity program, stated Jason Canfield, Farmington Public Schools cybersecurity teacher. He has come a long way, and I am sure he will continue on his cyber IT professional journey through his college years. The NICE K-12 Cybersecurity Conference is held in December of every year and gathers all educators and cyber professionals for a U.S. summit on the current trends, data points, and key topics that should be taught to K-12 students and integrated into the curriculum. The cyber landscape is constantly changing on a daily basis. Thus, the goal of this conference is to keep educators and other IT professionals in the loop on these new occurrences. So with that, we'd like to congratulate and again recognize Jacob Marchionda from North Farmington, one of only 6 students in the entire United States. Feel free to share any thoughts or tell us, the event already happened, so if you want to share what that experience was like, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, so first I'd like to say thank you for having me here, and it was a really fun experience. I got to kind of see what these conferences are like behind the scenes, and I got to share my experience as a cybersecurity student to hopefully help some other teachers develop their programs. And then lastly, I'd like to thank my cybersecurity teacher, Mr. Canfield, because he ultimately got me in contact with the people running this program. And so, yeah, thank you.
Great. And before you go, I did see that you have some paparazzi in the audience. Do you care to share who you brought with you today?
I brought my mom and dad, and they've been supporting me a lot throughout my whole cybersecurity journey, and of course I'd like to thank them too.
Over to you, Superintendent update.
Okay, I'll continue with the superintendent's update. So I am looking forward to the winter concerts that are happening this week. We have a few of our middle school vocal music and orchestra concerts, and those we also will have some more, both from the middle school and the high school after the winter break. So I'd encourage you to attend those concerts this week. Of course, it was mentioned this Saturday is the GoodFellows Delivery Day, where all of those food donations that you so graciously donated to schools and community centers around our area are going to be delivered with the support of our own community. So it's a long-standing tradition, one we're very proud of. The SRT, the Student Roundtable, was mentioned, and I want to thank Alyssa for being here tonight, our president. Today was a special meeting because it was a joint meeting of the Student Roundtable and the IDEA, our Diversity Equity Group that Dr. Goodrum oversees. It was a joint meeting. We had both a virtual, kind of a roomy-zoomy model, if you will, some students in the room and some on Zoom. But as Ms. Fox, who joined us, said, we really wanted to gather some feedback from them and talk about their goals. And so the goals, as you heard from Alyssa, for the student roundtable really focus around self-development. It's something that when we look at the profile of a learner in our last session, it's how can they develop themselves not only academically, but from a health and wellness standpoint. And the IDEA group also has goals, and some of their goals are really surrounded around their annual Diversity Student Conference, which is so impressive and has been going on for a couple of decades, completely student-led. And so we're very excited about that, as well as their role in the Martin Luther King Jr. March and Celebration and Forum in just a few weeks at the public library. And so I'm sure Ms. Fox will agree with me, is that every time I meet with these young people, they just give me hope. They're just so committed, so thoughtful, so intellectual, and really just raise your spirits when you're around them. And so they give me hope, and I think it's our job to give them voice. And that's what the roundtable is supposed to do. So speaking of voice, we also discussed with them the ESSER 3 funding, the COVID grant monies. And at our last session, we had asked for their input on items that can support students and their learning and their social emotional status at school. And so we gave them an update on the application that we've incorporated some of their ideas directly into that grant application. So we were happy to do that. I also want to move on to our new teachers, our new FEA staff members. So typically in December, we would have all of our new staff members join us. Because the group is so large this year, we have 75 new FEA staff members. And so we are really, really excited. I know some might be here, but they had a separate virtual kind of meeting before, and then some of them, I hope that they are watching. It is really a challenging time for anyone to go into education, but a year like no other. We all started the year thinking that COVID would be gone and that it would not be as challenging as it has been, but it really has been. And so whether you're a brand new teacher or a teacher who transferred to our district, we want to just say welcome. Thank you for being here. We care about you. We want you to be here for a very long time, and we so appreciate everything that you do each and every day for our students and our staff. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my wonderful, wonderful executive assistant, Miss Kim Buckley, at the left of the table. I know she doesn't want a lot of attention, but she has been just incredible. I have been here 6 months, and she has welcomed me with such warmth and open arms and patience as I learned the new role of being a superintendent. And I just want to thank her. She is the consummate professional, is a dedicated Farmington Public Schools employee, is kind, is generous, and is thoughtful. And I'm going to miss you incredibly. I'm very happy also to acknowledge Miss Kathy Starren, who's in the back, who is going to be replacing Miss Buckley, another long-term Farmington employee. And I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Buckley. And of course, I wish you well, and I hope that we stay in touch. That's the end of my update.
Now it's time for the innovation update. Dr. Delgado.
Sure, and I can turn this over to Dr. Kelly Coffin for the next two items, both the innovation update and the strategic plan update.
Good evening, everyone. I am pleased. This is I think, just the day of living my best life. I get to talk about the profile of a learner. Now we get to talk about innovation, and in a few minutes we'll talk about strategic planning. So, as you know, each month the board has chosen to have an opportunity to learn about some of the innovative practices that are happening throughout the district. And so tonight I am pleased to introduce one of our Farmington STEAM Academy middle level teachers, Mr. Cooper Frank, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can come up and talk about his innovative practice of the World Peace Game. And he did bring a few friends with him tonight.
All right, I need to make this a lot taller. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Cooper Franks. I teach over at Farmington STEAM Academy. I teach 7th grade, but I also have an elective class, which is called the World Peace Game. I had the pleasure of Dr. Delgado to come into the class, as well as a couple of other individuals. We also have Ayla Hogard, who is in 8th grade, Christian Geary, and Aaron Kriya Chase, all 8th graders who I had last year. They are part of the World Peace Game. I don't want to talk too long about it. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background and then give them an opportunity to speak. So the World Peace Game, it was created by a man named John Hunter. There's a really, he's in the top left. He did a really interesting TED Talk. Essentially what it is, it's a economic, political, environmental simulation where students are pitted against each other, each have a role within this fictional world, but they are thrown into these crises that they have to solve. We live in a world where traditional schooling can't exist as the way it currently does because we live in a very complex world. We no longer have rote memorization. We have to solve complex issues that are constantly changing. And so we have to equip our students with the ability to think critically, think creatively, and solve these crises that they might solve one day, right, in our real world. And so each group, there's various roles, prime minister, general, saboteur, weather goddess, press reporter, secretary of state, and each role, it enhances their critical thinking because they have to think on their feet. They're constantly thrown into a variety of crises. The Red Nation, these two were in the Red Nation, they had to solve a civil war that was going on within their country, while they were also trying to solve the press reporter being captured by the Blue Nation. They have to collaborate with one another, even if they do not agree. It's always changing, always evolving. It has student agency. They were kind of my guinea pigs. And they hit the ground running. When we innovate, we have to give a lot of what we're used to up as educators. We have to allow them to make mistakes. We have to make mistakes and we have to try. And so this real life simulation allows that. There's a lot of high student engagement. We didn't really have any assignments except for a final reflection. Yet every single class they were engaged. They were always constantly learning, always pushing themselves. They're always adapting. They communicate. They created press releases. They created treaties. They created declarations of war. They wrote letters to fallen soldiers. And they wrote in a variety of mediums. I'm an English teacher, so it's powerful to be able to write in a variety of mediums rather than just writing a 5-paragraph essay. They were civically engaged. They were thinking of the issues that happen in our world and doing them in real time. And so we would constantly look at the news of what's happening in our world and still approach them. It also practices metacognition. We talk about, why are you thinking the way you think? Why are you upset? Let's talk about that. Why are you frustrated that someone is bombing your country? Why do you feel this way? And then we also analyze information. They're presented with really complex crises, and they have to pick it apart. I would like to turn it over to them, for them to just, from a student's perspective, talk about their role, and then also talk about what they thought about the World Peace Game from a student's perspective. Because obviously that's why we're here. And so I'd love for them to kind of come to the stand. I would say just state your position, what role you had, and then just anything you thought about the game, what you learned, and maybe some improvements for the future. Okay? Take it away.
I'm Christian. In Red Nation, I was their general. And
What did you learn?
oh, well, working with people, like in elementary school, teachers would always put us in groups where they'd be like, oh, okay, you're working with a group now. And it was easy for one person to slack off while another person could do all the work. But in this elective, if you slacked off, you could actually tell that this person wasn't working on what they were supposed to be doing because there was a leader, there was a general, and there was a secretary of state. And you all had to work together to come up with one main goal, and I like that.
My role was Secretary of State, so I was in charge of like the money, making negotiations, signing peace treaties. I think this game was a very great learning opportunity. One of the first things we did was have to write a resume, which I think is great for the future. It taught us how to like work together with people, make decisions, how like Christian said, like you can't slack off because everything you have to work together. I don't know, it was a really great learning opportunity. we had to write, like we had press conferences every week. Aaron was the reporter. They were, I guess, intense, but they were like a very great learning opportunity because you had to speak, you had to say what was going on in your nation, and I just thought it was a really fun opportunity.
So during World Peace Game, my role was the UN reporter, and my job was basically to hold my other peers accountable. So like we had instances where I felt like a lot of the students just weren't really doing what they were supposed to be doing, and my job was basically to grill them every Friday. And I mean, I did my job, and I did it well. So. But also, so during World Peace Game, I also feel like one skill that we learned was, like one of my friends mentioned, our resumes. So our resumes were treated like real resumes, like throughout the class. It's supposed to be a realistic class, and we submitted our resumes, and we got our different positions and our jobs and our roles, and also something that I feel like was part of that real element is probably how we were supposed to be held accountable. So like during the press conferences, often, like I said, there would be problems, including like floods, natural hazards, things of that sort, and we would review them, like kind of have something like this meeting, and we'd go over them, and we'd hold each other accountable for our actions. And I did really enjoy that element of class because then I wouldn't have to take on more work than anybody else, and it was very fair. And also my personal enjoyment was just doing my job and holding other people accountable as the UN reporter and reporting on our different problems in the world. So yeah, I really enjoyed the class, and I definitely think that it's a great opportunity for students across the district even.
Thank you. So they're being modest. They really did run the game, right? Like I was there. I did take on a role of the leader of the Green Nation because we didn't have enough students for the first quarter. But for Erin, for example, she pushed everyone to think more critically. I remember these two were amazing in the Red Nation, but when they would go up there, they were a little scared of Erin. Because she would grill them. You know, she pushed them they would propose a solution, and she pushed them to think more critically. And you know, that's why we were there. So I mean, I appreciate them participating in the game. I appreciate all of you for listening to us. I hope to do more innovative ideas as we push forward in the future. I did, have time. Oh, sorry. This is just some examples. Each group got a little dossier. That's the new updates. Again, they were the guinea pigs. So this year, this semester, I've created dossiers for every nation to basically have like a playbook. And then that's a picture of the board that we built. And that's really it. Thank you all for being here, for inviting us here. Thank you three for coming. And that's any questions you might have?
Dr. Blau?
So how did you come up with this idea?
As I said, it was inspired by John Hunter. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at Michigan State, where I attended university. And so he created this game. He was asked to teach students of excellence, and they asked him, what would you like to do? And he said, well, I'm really interested in world problems as well as board games, and he created this from scratch. It started off with just like a piece of cardboard, and it built over time.
Wow, so you guys built your own board?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, Smith?
I love this idea, and I have been a groupie for the past couple of weeks, going to the buildings and watching these, because I'm a hands-on person.
Yeah.
And so what I have been doing is, with the permission of Dr. Coffin and the superintendent and some of the staff, I've been going over and looking at all of this, and I'm sorry that I didn't come to STEAM, but I love the fact that this has become what you would call a 3D chess game or whatever, just using real bodies and people. I love the hands-on everything, and then I love the accountability. Continue to do that, because that will go with you through life. what you're learning is life lessons. And it seems like you're just having fun, but you're actually learning. But this is one of the best things that I have seen in forever with, and I will be coming into buildings after break and seeing some more of these classes, because these are, if you haven't seen these students, it keeps these students thinking. There's no time for any play or, keeping up anything. It's kids actually learning, and I don't even think they realize they're learning. They are actually doing things to keep people engaged, and they have even mentioned that they've seen the superintendent come in and Dr. Coffin and the rest of the cabinet and other people. So I just want to thank all of you. And thank you, students, for doing this. And like you said, I like the way you have it set up, because I used to be in them little groups, and it was always somebody that didn't do the project and they got the credit, and I would be waiting on them after school, saying, hey, wait a minute, y'all want to hold you accountable for this. You didn't do your part, go tell the teacher. With this, you get to tell who has done their work and who has not, So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I just want to agree with everything that Ms. Smith and Dr. Blau said, but and compliment you. I always want to go back to school and be in your class. What's the time frame? Is this something that is ongoing through the semester, or a few days, or a couple days a week, or I'm just curious on how you fit that in, just because I know your curriculum is packed with all the things that you have to do, and this is a great culminating activity that ties things together. So how much time do you devote to it?
Yeah, so this is an elective in its own. Each elective group lasts 10 weeks. So the class lasts about 10 weeks, which is a good amount of time to pursue the game and try to solve for world peace. So.
Oh, wow, that's even makes it more amazing. I thought you just fit it into a class. So yeah, just a full 10-week. Oh, how exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a, Miss Sarah? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you please come to the microphone? I'm just saying, you're the one who wanted to comment.
I'm sorry. I don't think she's going to be very happy with me. But I just had to say I wanted to thank Mr. Franks, because every day my daughter got into the car, came home, and she was giving me the World Peace Update, and it was so excited. And I always felt like she could have worked in the UN. Like half the things that she was speaking about, I had no clue. So it just made me feel like that student agency piece of it was completely working. And when she asked to take the class again, but she couldn't because there weren't enough seats available. That really spoke to me as a parent. So I just wanted to thank you, and I don't mean to embarrass you. I'm very sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and so if you do have a chance, they didn't really talk a lot about it, but the World Peace Board is actually up in the ceiling, and they crank it down, and it comes down, and the kids stand around it, and then it goes back up for all the other classes. So that in and of itself is pretty cool, I think. Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes, and everybody has a lot of things going on, so please feel free, to leave. So thank you. Okay. Next up, we're going to hear from our Teaching and Learning Strategic Planning Committee tonight. So I want to introduce our three co-leaders. So we have Roisin Hunter, we have Christina Pittman, and we have Marley Bellinger. You guys want to come up here? Come up here. And they are supported, so three fabulous co-leaders are going to talk to you. They are supported by two wonderful administrators that you may know, Ms. Chandra Hurton and Mr. Joe Green. They are here to support the fantastic work that's happening. So again, each month we've been providing an update, so I'm going to turn it over to the group, and they're going to walk you through some of the awesome work that's been happening in our Teaching and Learning Committee.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. I wanted to start first by saying that this is my 25th year as a teacher, and all of it has been in Farmington. And I've been on many different committees, none as many as I've had this year, which is great. But I've never felt a time where teacher voice has been so welcomed and so valued. And I love that so much. And I give props to Dr. Coffin for putting these strategic planning teams together and allowing us as teachers, you know, we see the kids every day. We're in the throes of it. You know, we're on the front lines, and to value what we have to say and to value our knowledge means a lot. And actually, I'm more empowered, you know, than ever. So thank you, Dr. Coffin, for that. And I love my team. They're incredible. When I said I taught for 25 years, someone was supposed to say, how is that possible? But I didn't hear anyone. You had such a great opportunity. Okay, let's start with this. Okay, so our first objective on the team is connecting the concepts of authentic tasks and positioning and looking at how students will learn. I put something up today just to help us understand a little bit more. You know, we have a lot of teacher talks, so it's important to help us understand what authentic tasks are. And as those kids were presenting today, that's it. Authentic tasks are real world opportunities and things that are relevant to the world. We need to incorporate more of that in our teaching. Purposeful and engaging, just like that game was. Activities that require critical thinking skills and definitely aligns with the standards. Positioning is something we're really focusing on a lot this year. And I look at positioning sort of like setting the stage for our kids. You know, each learner is an equitable participant. Positioning creates student voice and student agency, and it provides opportunities for high engagement and a lot of opportunity for inquiry and for self-reflection. And we'll talk more when there's other slides coming up, but I think that I'm enjoying this work because I like to be a teacher that thinks a little bit outside the box. And so this has been exciting for me to do, and I'm just very excited. And I have a fabulous team. No.
Yeah, and as Roisin was saying, this is truly a way to lead by example. Like, this has been a project-based experience for us. Like, we have really been the leadership, and we have done the work here. And, you know, we're always asking Dr. Coffin, like, what do you want? Like, what's your goal? And she's like, that's up to you. You know, you are the ones who take direction with this. So like Roisin said, it's just so empowering. So our next objective is to develop awareness and opportunities for vertical alignment across the district. So basically figuring out what students will learn, but more importantly, how it's connected. And I was just thinking about this, Ms. Fox, as you were talking about what the high schoolers wish they had known as middle schoolers, because it's not just vertical alignment, you know, in a certain grade band. Like, okay, you're gonna learn this in 6th grade, you're gonna learn this in 7th grade, and you're gonna learn this in 8th grade, and this is how they build upon each other. But rather how it system-wide, whole scale. So we think about the standards as we're aligning things. You know, so we learn about finding a main idea in 4th grade, and then we learn about finding multiple main ideas in 5th grade. So we're building upon the 4th grade knowledge, but also the vertical alignment in the social emotional realm. Like, how are we going to make sure that what we're learning here is building upon this, you know, system-wide. So we're really looking forward to that. And that's part of why this committee is so powerful too, because I've been on a lot of committees too, and it is so eye-opening to have community members and board members and educators in different districts. And like the K through 12 presence is really valuable.
Okay, and then the third objective is looking at our grading practices. And so we moved to standards-based grading. I'm a high school teacher. It's been really eye-opening, talking with elementary teachers, talking with middle school teachers. What are we doing at each level? So we have made some changes in our grading practices. So the first thing we're doing is gathering input. What's working? What's not? I have the luxury of working with seniors, and I know that our students leave and are very successful. So everything is not broken. One of the documents we're taking a look at is the steps to fix broken grades, 15 steps to fix broken grades. But not everything is broken. So we're really listening, what's working, what's not, and then how can we move forward? How can our assessments and our grades and our feedback at each level be really valuable for the student, for the parent, for the teachers, and how can we get them involved? So both of those first steps, they talked a lot about student engagement, empowering the students. I've done a lot in my own classroom with students having a voice in their grading. The other day, actually, one of my students, we were talking, I run debates in my class, I teach English, and one of the students were talking about cheating, just in general, like why do students cheat, what happens, why do they cut corners? And so one of the students said, well, you wouldn't be able to join this discussion. I said, why not? And they said, well, you grade us on our thinking. And it just hit me because I was like, I think all of my peers would say we grade you on your thinking. But the fact that a student would say, we don't always base our grades on our thinking, that's a shift, really was eye-opening for me. I can't tell you how much I learn from them every day. So how can we get them engaged and empowered? How can we get them reflecting on their learning? We do a lot with metacognition at the secondary level. We've done a lot of training for our teachers in reading apprenticeship. And that's been a really powerful tool to get students thinking about their metacognition, thinking about their thinking, being able to explain that. And then, as we talked about in Objective 1, being able to apply their learning to the real world. And again, for me, I'm always telling my students, what are you going to do when you leave? Because you're getting ready to leave. What are you going to do with these skills? How are you going to use them? So again, really listening to student voice, listening to our community voice. That's been a really awesome part of this community. I've usually only talked to the parents in my own classroom. So being able to hear from parents at multiple levels, getting that feedback has been really useful for us. So I want to second that we have an awesome committee, and I've been really engaged and inspired by some of the discussions we've had thus far.
All right, so we have a pretty big scope for the tasks that we're tackling. As you can see from those objectives, it's a lot to work into, but we're up for the challenge. So some of the future work that we're going to be looking at going forward is identifying authentic tasks already created across grade levels and grade bands and share what's working. So we put out a survey to see what people are doing, what's working, and collecting things from the curriculum that we already have. So we don't have to recreate or redesign. We can use what's there and then build upon that foundation. And then we will meet with curriculum leaders in all core content areas and figure out what the grading practices are and work with secondary instructional leaders to figure out where we need to go with that. And then we also are recruiting. Right now, we have a lot of upper elementary representation, we have a lot of secondary representation, but we would really benefit from having some lower elementary teachers and middle school teachers, and then also recruiting students as well. And then identify what teachers need from one another to figure out that vertical alignment. So like I'm in a really wonderful position of having taught 4th grade last year and teaching 5th grade this year. And I've also taught kindergarten in the past. So I have really benefited from the scope of seeing where kids begin when they come into school with nothing, and then where they're leaving elementary school as 5th graders. And so that perspective has really helped me. Not all teachers have that opportunity. Not all teachers want that opportunity because kindergarten's hard. But it's definitely, what we definitely need to communicate with each other. I mean, we've had some excellent conversations amongst ourselves, like just hearing from the secondary teachers about, what they do. Like I have a friend who teaches high school, and he teaches the same social studies content I teach, just deeper. So just figuring out how we can use those connections. And so right now we're just working on clarifying the objectives and related concepts because we had some big teacher vocabulary we put out there, and just making sure, like not all teachers even understand what we mean when we say authentic tasks.
So making sure everybody understands that. Surveying stakeholders and collecting data. We send out a Google form every month, and that is kind of what has guided our work so far. We've been putting input for the learner profile like you all saw today. And again, recruiting student voice and getting teacher representation across grade levels. All right, now it's you, Joe. I think, or is it Marnie?
It's Marnie. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marilyn Diam. I have a unique position here. I am an alumni of Farmington Public Schools, class of 1996, Harrison Hawks. I also am a community member of 5 years and grew up in the district. My parents still live at 14 and Middle Belt in Old Franklin Town. And I am an educator. So I spent almost 15 years teaching in Bloomfield Hills, which is where I recognize Mr. Delgado, and now I am the coordinator of technological adventures at Hillel Day School, which happens to be in Farmington Hills. So when the email came out about committee opportunities, this is where my heart is, in helping other educators and students achieve their best potential. And being a part of this committee has been an amazing opportunity, and I've really been impressed with the whole overall process because it's showing such commitment from the district to the growth of all learners. It is making it possible for every counterpart, every stakeholder to be heard in this process and moving forward with a common goal, which is critical in education, especially today. It's also been lovely to see and participate in discussions where the emphasis is on strong social emotional foundations, because our students, whether they are kindergartners or seniors or middle schoolers, my sister-in-law is one of the new hires, she teaches at Warner, if you are not feeling safe, if you are not feeling not necessarily happy, but comfortable about where you are and who you are, it makes learning the important content very challenging. And I equate that to when you're hungry, it's really hard to concentrate on anything. That's why you never go grocery shopping hungry. So the emphasis on ensuring that development of social emotional foundations will enable the district and the educators and everyone to continue building these incredible graduates of Farmington schools. And what's been most impressive overall, I think, is the emphasis on the buy-in from all the stakeholders. When I was in Bloomfield, we went through a process of many processes where a lot of times things were dictated to us. And being on this committee with other community members, with the incredible educators and administrators, it's really going to help the process be one that everyone becomes invested in, because everyone has the opportunity to have their voice heard, to give their input, including adding students. So it's been absolutely inspiring to be working on this committee from the community perspective and seeing everything that is continuing to make this district one that I am proud to be an alumni of. Thank you.
Good evening. As administrators, we really have the good fortune of being a part of this wonderful team. I stand here with such pride. It's almost emotional just to hear the voice of community and staff and my colleague behind me. We just really have such a pride in the process and just being a part of the important work that is coming out of this team. Our goal is really to create a system-wide, global, guaranteed outcome for all, and I want to emphasize all of our FPS students.
And before I get to the second bullet point, I want to give kudos to Dr. Coffin, because as you can tell, this group is a bunch of very bold, audacious educators. Knew I'd sneak that in there, didn't you? The real genius behind this is there's a group of rebels here who have really pushed and tried new things and taken risks to tinker and get it better and better for every kid. And there's a system right now that enables them to channel that and inspire that and push that to their colleagues and inspire them to that same boldness and audacity. And that's going to help us build a vertically aligned curriculum that looks like a ladder. from kindergarten all the way through grade 12. That's in language that students and parents and educators can understand. So that when a kid is struggling, we can look back and point at, it's that rung in the ladder, let's get some more practice there. And maybe when we're looping through something like inference, families can work on it by watching a show together, taking guesses on inference, throw it in an envelope and see what happens in the next week's show and somebody gets to pick dinner. All these things that can make it so that everybody's participating and supporting the kids' education. And so that, most importantly, our learners can see the rungs on the ladder and feel possible and find their way to climb that. So not a one-size-fits-all piece, but a navigable way to climb towards that profile of a learner. So that vertical alignment is going to be immense. And as we said before, it's not just academic, but it's that social emotional piece about learning how to think empathetically, learning how to be metacognitive, to pause, process, manage time. A lot of the things we talked about today in Student Roundtable, Dr. Delgado. So we're hoping that vertically aligned piece will then become the backbone of everything we do here in the district. And so I'm going to turn it over back to my most talented colleague here.
Thank you. By positioning our students really at the heart of each learning experience, which is intentionally planned to authentically connect with the real world, our educators will be able to engage in best practices to help our students really achieve the goal of a profile of a graduate. And that's a lot of what we are focused on in our work, is ultimately we're beginning with the end in mind.
All right, so there's the great work. Thank you. Any questions for the committee?
Ms. Smith, and then Dr. Platt.
Mine is more of a comment. When you purchase a home, you go into that home, it's empty and it had someone else's touches on it. But Dr. Coffin, you, come back up here.
I'm trying to stay out of their way.
You are the MVP of decorating a new home. And I applaud you, because without you having a superintendent like Dr. Delgado to come in and let you, not let you, because I hate using that word with women, to allow you to come in and take the initiative to run and do what is best. You have actually picked some of the most finest, Farmington's finest people, because I do know Ms. Pittman from North Farmington. I'm aging myself, and Rasheen, I know you have some of the best people that you have put, and not slighting, the principals here. You have put this such a great job of putting this together that I could not be more happier. For the past 24 years, living in this community, in this district, this is what I have been looking for. This is what I have wanted. And you, and like what Mr. Green said, you got a real heavy hitter over there, the one nodding her head over there with that burgundy on. So I know what you're doing and the work that you have done. And I want to commend you. Christmas gifts, this is the best one. I really appreciate all that you have done and all what you've done. I mean, you've got all levels, and you've allowed them to think outside the box. And as I stated to you on Saturday, we don't need the Laura Ingalls and the Little House on the Prairies anymore. We don't need the blackboards. We need this innovation right here. And thank you all. I appreciate everything that all of you are doing. And mainly you. I want to celebrate you, not tolerate you. And that's what you're getting tonight, is a celebration. Thank you all so much.
And again, this work wouldn't be possible without the great educators standing here and community members. Oh, there she is, she's behind me. Like Marnie, who adds so much to this. And as you heard from them, this is really the grassroots. They are where the rubber meets the road. And that was one of the things we heard over and over with past strategic planning initiatives in the district, is a lot of great work was done, but there was such a disconnect between the kids. So we're working towards that. So we're a work in progress, but it's because of them that we can do this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys, I know, have 5,000 other things you need to get done this week, so feel free to.
Wait.
Oh.
Dr. Blau and then Ms. Heinrich.
I have a PhD, but I can't figure out how to get the Kleenex, so I got I am overwhelmed with joy about the work that you are doing and on your committee, and I'm so glad. As an educator myself, I've been teaching for 35 years, and you said something about being celebrated versus tolerated. Sometimes I've been tolerated, sometimes I've just been fired. And to be in a district now where this kind of innovation and focus upon what's really, truly in the best interest of the students, not just test scores, but really the academic and social and emotional growth of each student is, am I dreaming? This is amazing, and I'm so happy for our Farmington teachers, our students, our community, and so honored to be part of this process. This is so exciting. And I have an idea. I was wondering, as we go forward, maybe this is not a board thing. Well, anyway, I'm going to just blurt it out anyway. We have teachers like you who have phenomenal ideas about, well, here's a really cool way to teach, I don't know, area of a circle. Or here's a really cool way to teach, the Revolutionary War. I wonder if it would be possible ever to have our own Farmington Public Schools Educators Conference, where our own educators have opportunities to share, to give like little workshops and share with our own educators, so that those who know how to do some of these authentic tasks and align vertically can share with others who are newer to that experience what we know.
That would make like a great PD day, like a November.
Would that be awesome?
That would be great. That would be phenomenal.
Yes,
Draw
thank
upon
you.
our own talent and share what
Yeah.
what we're already doing. Anyway,
Sure.
Thank you, all of you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just want to, I'm an educator, so I mean, I get it, but just to show appreciation. The themes I'm seeing is just ownership, just, how you have ownership in what you're doing and your passion, and I know that's why you went into education, so, I appreciate that, but common themes and everything that we've heard tonight is voice, and I'm just want to recognize that we have, the teacher voice, we have the student voice, the community voice, the administration, and being and working for a public school district, it's just so refreshing to see teachers involved in a committee and involved in a work where you really feel like what you're doing matters, and you're really able to not just check off the boxes of what you're being asked to do, but you're actually, your thoughts and your voice is really important, and it is making a difference, and it is going to be heard and used and incorporated. And so that is just a great appreciation for that. And when people ask about, Farmington's communities and why aren't we, or I'm new on the board and it's like, return to excellence or whatever. But I mean, I see this is what drives excellence. And this is where we're making a name, and we're leaders in Michigan, and leaders in Oakland County, and leaders in what our school district is doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Walker?
Two things very quickly. One thing that about the entire strategic plan and all of the elements as evidenced tonight is how you're pouring in to teachers who then pour into other teachers who then can't help but pour into the students. I mean, it is so fabulous, because I think sometimes we forget about, we got to continue to empower our teachers. And if this level of excitement shows up in the classroom, learning and growing has to take place. And I just think that that's absolutely phenomenal. And so can we get an example of that learning and growing, and help me with one point that was mentioned in the presentation, system-wide global guaranteed outcome for FPS students. Could somebody just explain that a little bit more for me so I understand what was meant by that? That's all.
So when we develop a profile of our graduate and we think about that vertical alignment underneath in each area, we want to make sure that we can clearly articulate if your child comes through Farmington Public Schools, these are the things that they are going to master and be able to bring out in the world with them. And we want to do it in such a way that it is not overwhelming, but that it's concise, it's targeted at what they need to contend with the 21st century, and that it is accessible to any human being that walks through our doors. Does that, hopefully?
See, teaching and learning just took place. Thank you. That's what I needed. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you so
guys
much. Great, so now it's time to move on to reports from board committees. First is the Legislative Committee. Dr. Blau.
We had our first legislative committee meeting last week, and we are just at the beginning of figuring out what our goals are going forward. One suggestion was to have someone from the Michigan Association of School Boards come and talk with us about what some of the legislative committees on other boards are doing. One of our areas of focus will be building relationships with legislators both locally and throughout the state as we move forward. So it was a very productive first meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Heinrich, Finance and Facilities Committee.
Yes, the Finance and Facilities Committee met Wednesday, December 8th at 8:30 in the morning. Myself and Ms. Weems were present along with various representatives. There's a lot of information that's going to be presented both in discussion items and then action items. And the reason for that is timeliness of locking in costs. The first thing we talked about is going to be on the copier equipment and purchases, which was Prescott is going to present. And just an interesting factoid, we asked, what's the life of these copy machines? And with technology, they're able to track how many copies. So it's 7 to 8 million copies. And so you can picture what 7 to 8 million pieces of paper looks like. And one of the things that they're able to do is move the copiers around the district to different buildings so that they can maximize the life of it. So I was pretty impressed with that. So that will be presented as a discussion item, and then we will also be voting on that tonight. We talked about the bus purchase. Aaron Hill, everything he talks about, I'm very impressed. We're purchasing, he's going to recommend 10 new buses, and that's going to be part of the bond money, and that's going to be asked for the approval before the price increases in January. And so that will be on the agenda tonight. Bid pack number 6 is on the agenda, and that's on the district signage. And it was a very thorough discussion, and that again is going to be discussion and then action item. But right now, all the buildings have signs, but we're going to make all the signing uniform across the district. And one of the points that was emphasized is some buildings have electronic capability, and other buildings just have wooden signs. And so it's kind of branding our district, and it's also making a statement and providing access for parents to get information and updated information. And so that's going to be a positive for our district. And again, I'm very thoughtful use of our money, and the fact that it's actually more cost effective to replace all the signs at one time rather than pace it out over a course of years in a few buildings at a time. And then the other thing that we talked about, I'm telling you, this was a long meeting, the general appropriations, the resolution budget amendment, which Mrs. Kaminsky is going to present at the meeting tonight. And so we'll hear more about that and future agenda items. We're going to talk about the Visions program again, the relocation, and also this building as far as remodeling for the new community support services and office space. That's it.
That was all, that was it? Nothing?
I have more notes, but we'll just, there is discussion items, so we can have more questions on that.
Well, with that, we'll move on to discussion items. First is bid pack number 5, that's Power Middle School bid and award recommendation. Dr. Delgado.
Are we going to have the team come up now?
Yes.
Okay. I can turn it over to our team, led by Mr. John Barth, our Director of Operations.
There's a whole bunch of spreadsheets on that, too.
Oh, I am sure.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Delgado. Tonight I have the pleasure of introducing again Mr. Scott Smith and Mr. Aaron Phillips from McCarthy & Smith. They're going to recommend recommendations regarding bid pack 5 for Power Middle School improvements and bid pack 6 for district-wide exterior signage. Bid results were discussed, as mentioned, at the Finance Facilities Committee meeting on December 8th. 4 alternates for bid pack 5 were considered, with 3 being recommended as essential to the project. Upon approval, Power Middle School improvements and the district-wide signage are scheduled to begin in the summer of 2022. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Aaron and Scott.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. So first on our agenda, yes, we had the privilege of addressing and discussing these items really in depth with the Finance Facilities Committee meeting last Wednesday on the 8th. And again, had a lot of very good discussion in much more detail probably than we'll present tonight, but certainly can answer any more questions this evening. So relative to bid pack 5, the large bulk of this work is over at Power Middle School. As Aaron will go into, one of the alternates is some work over at Lanigan Elementary. But a very successful bid opening. We are within 2% of the overall budget, and that's after accepting roughly $110,000 worth of alternates. We are, in terms of real numbers, the total recommendation in your packets tonight, including hard construction as well as a construction contingency, is $3,058,924. Again, a very successful opening, well attended. I think we had 50 bids, put the bids out in early November and took bids on the 2nd. With that, I think I'll just quickly mention bid pack 6 and then I'll turn it over to Aaron, who can go over really some more specifics relative to each bid package. But as we mentioned, the district-wide signage package, I think we've got 19 signs. They're all but really one will have messaging capabilities, and certainly all of the schools as well as most of the support buildings will have the same capabilities. They will be Wi-Fi enabled, so they'll be easily adjusted and adaptable. We did look to standardize it. We're looking to utilize a specific company that can do all of it. So again, you're not going to see minor differences between each of this over the years. So you're going to have a unified look. You're going to have we also capitalize really on the purchasing power. When you start to economize these and mass produce these signs like we are, you're saving thousands of dollars per sign to do it this way. So not only do you get the benefit of them all being done at once, you get the same look, and then you also save money at the same time. So I think it's a real win for the district. With that, I'll turn it over to Aaron to go over in more detail.
Great. Thanks, John. Thanks, Scott. Good evening, board. I'll start with bid package number 5, Power Middle School. So as we discussed at the Facilities and Finance meeting, very, very successful bid opening again that was held December 2nd. As Scott mentioned earlier, we had 50 bids, which is wonderful to see in this market. The bid ranges approximately $2.4 million to $3.7 million. Following the bid opening, we conducted post-bid interviews, very in-depth post-bid interviews, which analyzes each bid, make sure that contractors had the appropriate bid documents, bid information. It's a complete bid. There were a couple bids that were disqualified or rejected for a variety of reasons, and those are held on the spreadsheet there. There was a bid that did not have the required documentation. It was disqualified. There was a second low bid that had an estimating error and requested their bid to be removed. There was another second low bid that did not bid the specified manufacturer, and that bid was rejected. And there was another low bid that they had an estimating error and also asked to withdraw their bid. So those were vetted, and again, that is the entire point of a post-bid interview, making sure that we are signing up the appropriate companies. The three alternates that we are recommending for award, alternate number 1 and 2, pertain to some interior air handling units, HVAC units, that are nearing the end of their life cycle. We're basically replacing, quote unquote, the guts of it, if you will. It's the operations and interior components that need to be replaced. They're nearing the end of their life cycle. And alternate number 4 is some minor reconfiguration work over at Lanigan Elementary School. It's carving out some office spaces that are desperately needed to create some room over there. So we are recommending all 3 of those alternates, approximately $111,000 worth of cost there. So all in all, tonight, we are recommending the contract awards of $2,835,775 for bid package number 5. I will transition to bid package number 6. Again, this is the district-wide signage. Again, very, very successful bid opening. This was conducted also on December the 2nd. We had 16 bids, including 8 signage bids, which is phenomenal to see. In this market, we typically love to see 3. We would really hope to see 4, but having 8 is a very, very huge success. So, and that's attributed to great drawings, great project team behind me here too. So, same methodology here. We opened up the bids. We conducted very thorough post-bid interviews. The apparent low bidder accidentally didn't include the sales tax on their total bid, so they were removed as well. And we're recommending DMP Sign Company for that award, along with Blue Star, Monroe Electric, and D&B Landscaping Incorporated. So all in all, we're requested, the contract award recommendation is $749,706 tonight. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just also wanted to thank you guys too. Ms. Heinrich mentioned it earlier, but things continue to change in this world. You guys have been very appreciative of the fact that you guys continue to put us in a position to succeed with what we do by making timely decisions and asking great questions and helping us get these through the recommended steps. So thank you again.
And can I just say one of the things that came out in the Finance Committee meeting that we asked about is, because this is bond money project, because some of the projects are over budget and some are under budget, but overall, the overall cost of it, because of the savings that were done in some of the other bid packs, then that money is available for the expenses in the ones that are a little bit over. So it's just, I really have an appreciation, because in my real life, I don't get to spend millions of dollars. So I really have an appreciation for the fiscal responsibility that, I feel like is being done. You're not doing anything that's frivolous, and there's some things like in the, there were 4 alternates and you're only recommending 3 of them just because there wasn't a need for one of them. So just because things can be done, we're not doing them. We're just doing things that need to be done. So just an appreciation for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Delgado?
Thank you, Mr. Rich. And the next discussion item is about copier equipment and services purchase. So I'll invite up our technology director, Mr. Wes Prescott.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. The World Peace game is going to be a hard act to follow, but I'm going to try to do it with copy machines. So over the summer, we did go through an RFP for copy machines and a contract for the district. We got 8 companies that responded. Out of those 8, we invited the 3 low bids to come in. They brought in the machines. We were able to set them up in this building. We had opportunity for staff and administrators to come through and try them out. We went through reference checks with each of the vendors, the three that we had brought in for demo. Out of those three, the low bid was really, we couldn't find a reason to not go with them. The references checked out, the interface and the usability was what we needed. So we are recommending that we go with Toshiba. The bond cost is really the cost of the copy machines is about $337,000, just a little bit over that, over a 5-year period. And then the cost of the maintenance contract and the software, that licensing that runs it, is just over $600,000 over the 5-year period. So we have an immediate need to replace about 17 of the copy machines, like Ms. Heinrich had talked about earlier at the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. We talked about, we really want to run these things till the end of their life. We're not going to replace it every 5 years just because that's what they say to do. We're going to make sure that we're not replacing it until the service calls are such that it requires replacement. So we do have the ability to, again, like Ms. Heinrich had said, like we talked about finance and facilities, we have the ability to move them around the district as needed. If there's a high-use one at the high school and one that's not been used much, say in this building, we can swap those out and get some extended life out of them. Does anybody have any questions? Fantastic.
Seeing none, I think you're good.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to bus purchase.
And once again, I'll invite up our wonderful Director of Operations, Mr. John Barth.
Good evening again, board members. I'm going to go on script instead of off script because Aaron Hill, our transportation supervisor, did such a great job putting this whole package together. I had to commend him. He couldn't be here tonight. And I said, I'll gladly step in because you did all the work for me. So speaking on behalf of Mr. Hill, I am requesting the Board of Education consider and approve the purchase of 10 school buses using the 2021 Michigan School Business Officials Bus Program, purchase program. This is the first bus purchase using the 2020 bond funds. Although in 2015 bond, we bought 52 new buses that modernized our student transportation fleet. So what led to this was Mr. Hill and his team, he's got really four highly skilled mechanics, and we're blessed with that as a district. And they went through all the buses to see really what was going to last, what wasn't, what was going to be an expense, what was probably not going to pass the state police inspections. And they determined that these buses were absolutely needed at this time and that we had the money to purchase them using this program. So transportation is recommended the purchase include 3 special education buses. These have a 21 passenger capacity. They have 5 wheelchair capacity and have a wheelchair lift and air conditioning. 3 regular education buses with 65 passenger capacity and 4 regular education buses with undercarriage compartments. This brings the total number of buses to 62 new buses since 2015, which is approximately 64% of our existing fleet. So one thing about the bus purchasing program, it's been leveraged across the state for a number of years. Since its inception, over 5,000 buses have been purchased by districts across the state, so we know it works. They use it because obviously they do all the bidding process for the districts and it's all above board, everything's recorded. It saves a lot of time for districts that don't have the time to put out a bid for buses and get the best price. So with that said, the 3 vendors that participated were Midwest Transit, and I mention this only because of something that I'm about to mention. Midwest Transit, who represent international buses, Hoekstra buses, or Hoekstra Transportation that represent Thomas buses, and Holland Bus Company, who represent Bluebird buses. Again, this is something MSBO does twice a year to make certain the most competitive prices are obtained. And although Hoekstra Transportation was a high bidder by $38,000, it has been noted that we currently own, the majority of our buses are currently Hoekstra buses. Virtually all of them are of our 95 buses. It's essential that we continue to have a common manufacturer to minimize the amount of parts that need to be purchased and inventoried. Our FPS mechanics know the ins and outs of this manufacturer, so there'll not be a learning curve when repairs are required. To have a common manufacturer, that's what districts mostly do, is that it's the best practice to have the same type of buses as if you have a large fleet, obviously. And just to mention, all of our retiring buses date to 2010 or older, so they've sort of lived their life and they're ready to go out to pasture. One item to mention is that Aaron spoke with Hoekstra this week, as mentioned by Margaret. Prices will be going up $4,000 per bus as of January 1st. So timing is crucial right now if we want to get the best bang for the buck. And also, Aaron's has worked with the manufacturer. The buses are now ordered in terms of if approved, so that we'll get them sooner than later. As you know, supply chain is terrible right now, especially for automotive vehicles, buses. With that said, we probably won't get them until September next year, but that's okay because we have buses that run currently. If the board approves this recommendation, Mr. Hill's going to go ahead and contact the manufacturer tomorrow to save that $40,000 on the 10 new buses. And again, this is a lot of work by Aaron behind the scenes, so I appreciate the work that he does. So we discussed this at the December 8th meeting, Facilities and Finance, or Finance Facilities Committee meeting. It was sort of approved by the team in terms of moving forward. Obviously, we really have to do this because we had to have aging buses that need more and more repairs. So it was that administration's recommendation that Hoekstra Transportation be awarded the bus purchase contract in the amount of $1,138,427 with funds to come from the 2020 Capital Projects Building and Site Fund. Any questions?
Ms. Fox?
Yes, I see here in the information that you have here, there's 5 wheelchair capacity with a wheelchair lift. Can you tell me if the new buses will have seat belts? And if not, why aren't seat belts in the buses?
That's a state law. They're looking at that right now. So, and Aaron can answer that better than me. I don't want to misspeak because I know a lot of that's in the works right now in terms of seatbelts on buses. The prevailing thought in the past was seatbelts weren't necessary for the speed that the buses were doing, the way they're configured in the buses. But again, I'm not sure the wheelchairs, in terms of the special ed buses, in terms of seatbelts, but again, Aaron could clarify some of that.
So I'm sorry, did you say it's a state law that does not allow for seatbelts?
No, I'm sorry, not a state law that doesn't allow for it, but there's legislature now to require that, to put seatbelts in buses. And states vary, so that's being discussed.
We can get an answer and find out and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Aaron can give you the most recent legislative update.
Ms. Smith?
Bus number 38, it's a 2010 model. Is it over 100,000 miles on that bus?
I do not know. Aaron had to, he's got mileage for all the buses, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I need to know. All right, thank you.
Seeing no more questions, thank you so much, and thank you for reading Aaron's words very eloquently.
He did the work.
I know the amount of work.
He did all the work.
You and he put into this.
Yeah, he does.
This entire process. So thank you. Moving on to the review of revised general appropriations resolution 2021-2022 budget amendment.
And she is already up there, our wonderful Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mrs. Kaminsky.
Well, good evening. This evening, I'm here to share with you our first budget amendment, as well as talk about what next steps are for the budget process. So I'd first like to say thank you to Kim Pinchek. She and I work very closely together on this first amendment especially, and then, as we really work through all of the budget amendments and the original budget, as well as Carla Swanson, who helps troubleshoot, items that we may need to look into as we're going through that process. And also, I have to say thank you to Kim Buckley. She's been a pleasure to work with, and always so understanding with timeframes. So thank you, Kim. So as we started out the budget or approved the budget in June, that original budget had us spending $763,000 of fund balance. And there were still a lot of unknowns at that time. But we felt, again, that we would have more information after the first of the year to bring this budget amendment sooner than we typically have. So the last few years, if you remember, it's come to you in January and February. So it's wonderful that we've been able to complete it a little bit sooner this year. So, whoops. Sorry about that. So let's talk about what's happened since July 1st. So again, after our fiscal year starts, after we've set that original budget. So we found out that our our funding increased by $171 per pupil for this year. And that was an additional $89 more than what we had put in the original budget. With hold harmless districts, because there's a formula that limits what we can receive as a foundation allowance increase, $43 of that is funded through a categorical 20M this time. In the past, it was 20J, which we all know that we lost that money about 10 years ago. So that $43 is a little bit at risk as we move forward, but we're hoping that'll be funded completely as we move through the years. So the state committed to funding all school districts at $8,700 per pupil, including hold harmless districts. And so that was one area where they weren't fully funding us, and we were collecting it through our property taxes. So that was a $191 increase for us, and that was our 20J amount that we lost several years back. Because the state is now fully funding us, they required us to reduce our hold harmless millage. So back in November, we brought to you that property tax millage reduction, which you approved, that affects our residential taxpayers. So instead of collecting $2,067 per pupil, we're now collecting $1,876. So that's that $191 per pupil reduction. They've allocated the remaining federal ESSER $2 as well as ESSER 3 funds, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. And our enrollment decline wound up being 460 students because no super blend was in effect for this current year. So if you remember, the state tried to help all districts last year that were experiencing an enrollment loss to try and mitigate some of the reduction in revenue. So this year they went back to that 90-10 formula. So what impact did that have on our revenue? So what did we need to adjust for this first amendment? So on the local revenue side, we adjusted our property tax revenue down by $2 million. And again, that's because of that reduction in the millage rate, or the amount we could collect per pupil, as well as the reduction in pupils. And then we also reduced our field trip revenue and miscellaneous revenue by about $150,000. The majority of the adjustments took place on the state revenue side. So again, as I mentioned, the state committed to funding all districts at that $8,700. And so for us, our full foundation allowance is $10,576. So again, that's $89 more than we were anticipating, which is about $800,000 additional. Our student FTE decreased more than we expected, and that's again due to the 90-10 blend going back into effect. So we lost revenue of about $1.7 million. Again, the state committed to fully funding us at $8,700 per pupil, that base foundation. And so that increased our revenue by 1.7. So those two really kind of offset each other. We had some foundation adjustments that increased revenue by $150,000. We received additional MIPSR's UAL revenues, that's the unfunded liability, of $900,000. And so again, if you remember, that also increases our cost. Back when we set the original budget, there was talk about reducing or eliminating the MIPSR's cost offset money. And so we took about $1.7 million out of the budget. They did commit to funding that this year, and so we added that $1.7 million back. Our ESSER $2 increased by $1.8 million as they allocated that money, and we were able to set the budget. And then we also had other state grant funding of $500,000. On the federal revenue side, we budgeted for an additional $557,000. So again, on the ESSER funds, we had already had some of the ESSER funding included. We budgeted the remaining, but we did not include the remaining allocation. We're still working on how we're going to be spending that money for the ESSER $2. And the ESSER $3 have lots and lots of requirements. So we actually submitted the application last week. The requirement was to apply for it by tomorrow. And so we're still working on setting that budget, and it's not included in this first amendment. On the interdistrict revenue side, we received some additional PA 18, that's the special education funding from Oakland schools of $325,000. On the expenditure side, we have revised all of our salary and benefit numbers based on the actual staffing that are in place and current contracts in place. So as you heard earlier, we have 75 new staff. So we didn't know that information last year, so now that's incorporated with their actual wage and benefit packages. We have increased staffing for the remote and virtual program at all levels. And we also have increased staffing for our social emotional learning program at the elementary level. We have an increase in federal grant expenditures of $557,000. And again, that's when we increase revenue, we also increase the expenditure side. So there is no effect on the bottom line. We also had a decrease in contracted special education transportation costs. So overall, revenues are at $144.7 million. Expenditures are at $146.7. So we're using approximately $2 million of fund balance. And that brings us to about a 19.9% fund balance currently. Again, we continued the $900,000 transfer to the bus purchase and maintenance fund, as well as the technology other projects funds. We also amended our nutrition services program. We reduced all local revenue as students are being provided free breakfast and lunch through the Seamless Summer Option program through the federal government. And then we also revised our benefit stabilization fund for plans that are in place for employees and the estimated claim costs at the current time. So next steps, obviously we have to consider the federal and state economies and things that are going on now, inflation, how they'll impact us as we move forward. We're still in the process of evaluating instructional priorities and additional supports that are needed. We're working through that strategic planning process where we'll gather additional information from our staff, community members on priorities and allocation of resources. We will be developing the budget parameters and assumptions for fiscal year '23, and that'll be brought to you sometime in February or March. And we'll also prepare forecasts for you for fiscal years '24 and '25. And that is all that I had.
Wow.
And answer any questions you might have.
Looking for any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Ms. Kaminsky, to you and Ms. Pinchak for all the hard work that you do. I know you spend countless hours on this and continue to spend countless hours as we move forward in this process. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we are now going to move into public comments. So If we can have someone check the overflow room. Okay, first is Michael Ford. You will have 3 minutes. Ms. Smith will have the timer, and so once that 3 minutes is up, you'll need to end your public comment.
And good evening to the board and Dr. Delgado. Thank you for having me. My name is Mike Ford. I'm with Electromagnetic Visual. We're an LED manufacturer based down the road in Farmington Hills. I have a few concerns that were raised by several of the participants in bid package number, the bidding process for bid package number 6, the district-wide signage. Several of our partners raised concerns about the discrepancies in the specification sheet as compared to the drawings of the actual signs. The pixel sizes described in the specification sheets did not match the actual drawings in the architectural drawings. So that created a lot of confusion from the manufacturer side to be able to quote the project accurately. Manufacturers were not allowed to bid on this, which as a public bid raised a few concerns from our end as well. And it was controlled through Building Connected, and we were not allowed to access the documents. So we weren't able to ask those questions to alleviate those concerns. There were a few other things that came up. Mr. Smith mentioned earlier Wi-Fi enabled signage. We were told cellular, which would deduct a significant amount off of each sign that we quoted. So again, I think there were enough things that would make, as a member of the community, raise enough concern to maybe look at rebidding this process. And, I did hear the comments about a manufacturer kicking and screaming because we didn't get it. If you rebid it, there's no guarantee we would get it anyway. So that's not a concern. It's more about a fair process that could save the district a significant amount of money. And I will say, as a former college counselor and college admissions counselor, the World Peace game was phenomenal. And building skills like developing a resume at that age would be tremendous for that process. So, definitely great things happening in the district, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jennifer Krager.
Hi, good evening. I am a staff member and a parent, and I'm just coming to you again. I've spoken a couple times at the board meeting, and I'm still asking to please take the mandate off of the masks that you are putting on our children. I left the papers in the other room, but I'll bring a copy back over for you. Right now, we are doing illegal things to our children. And this is an article that is going off of OSHA regulation rules, mandates, and madness. And it's written by Kristen Megan Kelly and Tammy Clark. They're certified OSHA specialists about wearing masks. They've written this article indicating that the attempt to clarify the illegality of the ETS, the statutory authority of the executive branch, the regulatory rulemaking process is unconstitutional, and the mandates within the ETS cannot be withheld. And that being said, 2 times federal courts have ruled twice that OSHA ETS standards cannot be, they're overreach. They're illegal. What we are doing to our kids is doing an illegal thing. And that's not right for Farmington Public Schools. I know this is based upon the Oakland County decisions, but it is coming to the school boards. So what I'm asking for is if you could take a look at this paperwork. This paperwork specifically says that masks are not part of PPE. They never have been. They can't actually push PPE because masks are worn on such a broad general. They're not able to seal. They're not able to maintain. Children should not be in them. What happened in Oxford schools was absolutely atrocious. Our kids are scared. They're fearful. They're stressed, and I can't emphasize that enough about the stress that these kids are feeling right now. Teachers are stressed. The mask does not help with the stress level. We need human connection again. We need to see that humans are important. And we're not doing a service by our kids by wearing masks. For those children who are hard of hearing, for those children who need to have a speech teacher show them their words and their actions, they can't do it. They're falling behind. Our seniors who haven't seen faces for a year and a half are going to walk away from this district saying, I don't remember what people looked like because I couldn't see their smiles. But they could all get together at the end of the day, hang out with their friends with no masks, or they're eating in the same cafeteria for a half an hour. No masks. Why is COVID so magically going to appear in classrooms? I don't understand. What I'm asking for and imploring with you is to please take the mandate away and let it be personal choice. I applaud you guys for doing as much as you have over the past year. This has been hard. But what I'm really asking is to consider doing something different, because the definition of insanity is to keep doing something over and over and over again the same time and expecting different results. We need a change in January. I know there's not any other public comments. I'm sure there's not anyone else here. I would just love to say, please hear me. It's important to take the mass of our kids and let them make the decision. If you want to wear your mask, wear it. If you don't, please give us that option, because we haven't had that option as parents.
Thank you for your
Let the health be the choice of parents and not of this district anymore. Thank you. I'll give these papers to you at the end after you guys are done. Thank you.
Kelly Goldberg.
Good evening. First, I wanted to just say I really appreciate all of you being here in mid-December. I appreciate that you do enforce masks. I keep tabs on what's going on in Japan because my son lives there. Tokyo is a city of 14.4 million people. They had 200 cases of COVID for the entire city on Friday. And the reason for that is because they're a society that wears masks, a society that's considerate of other members of society, especially the vulnerable. And their school children wear masks. And I think that much of Japan's education and culture is widely admired around the world. And to characterize a public health measure that protects all of us, including the young, as abuse is terribly misguided. And I'm glad that you take your information from scientists. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Going once, twice, 3 times. Public comment is now closed. We're going to move on to action items. First is bid pack number 5, that's Power Middle School bid and award recommendation. Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the Board of Education award bid pack number 5 for Power Middle School as outlined in the December 14th, 2021 letters from Plant Moran Cresa and McCarthy Smith, the amount of $3,119,353, funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Support.
Is moved by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes?
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
I myself, yes. Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is bid pack number 6, district signage bid and award recommendation. Mr. Walker?
I move that the Board of Education award bid pack number 6 for district signage as outlined in the December 14th, 2021 letters from Plant Moran Cresa and McCarthy Smith in the amount of $862,162. Funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Support.
It was moved by Mr. Walker, supported by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion? I actually have a few questions just from what was raised during public comment. If we could have our representatives from McCarthy Smith just come up to provide some answers regarding that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So just wanting to go off of the concerns that were raised in the public comment, could you please provide some reasoning, some responses, anything like that?
Sure. So there were discrepancies raised within the specifications. Those both discrepancies were issued as addendum number 1 and 2 and issued to all contractors. So typically in these projects, there's design questions because no set of documents is going to be perfect. They're created by humans. There could be gaps or discrepancies. However, when those are flushed out, those are issued to all bidding contractors through formal documents called addendums. All bidding contractors have the opportunity to look at those addendums, review them, and ask additional questions as need be. The second concern I heard was that the electronic sign manufacturers could not bid directly to the project. That's correct. I package these such that they're the most efficient for the district. That would be similar to Sherwin-Williams bidding on your project for paint and having a painting contractor bid on the labor portion of it. It doesn't make sense. So in this particular circumstance, we package them so that one contractor constructs the sign, installs the sign, and then also has the electronic component installed with the sign. It's a turnkey solution, the industry that we call that. The third concern that was raised was access to Building Connected. That is our online bidding software that we use to solicit bids, collect the bids, conduct the bid opening. Any and all people have access to Building Connected. That's a phone call to our office to have them added. And that's also communicated in all of the bid documents as issued in the bidding requirements and general conditions. That process is also reviewed at the pre-bid meetings. This specific one was held in mid-November via Zoom. So we want to give any and all people with interest in bidding Farmington projects access to the project, access to ask questions, and we want it to be a good process, and I feel like we've done that.
Great, and then just one last bit.
Sure.
I know there was a discrepancy between Wi-Fi and cellular connection. If that was
I specifically can't answer that. That would be the architect to answer that question.
Thank you. Were there any other questions?
Just one more.
I'll go with Ms. Heinrich and then Ms. Fox.
Well, just to help me understand a little bit more, when you talked about the manufacturer as opposed to the contractor's building, so if a manufacturer was allowed to bid, then would they have to include in their bid the contractor and the installation and everything in there?
Correct. That's correct.
So it's just...
There's a couple different components of this sign. There's the formal sign with the metal and the aluminum and the lettering and the kind of the box, if you will. And then there's the electronic display component, kind of like a scoreboard in a gymnasium that goes inside that box. So in our eyes, as a project team, we consider that one sign. So that's the way we deem it, again, as a buildable one component, not separating each of them out.
Okay. So then also included in this was the demolition and then the groundwork and everything were those separate bids or was that all included?
Those were separate bids because most signage contractors won't do the demolition work. Most signage contractors will not do the landscaping work. We want those to be developed by the experts.
Okay, and so there was consistency in the way you took all of the bids?
Yes.
Ms. Fox and then Ms. Smith.
Yes, just one thing that came to thought. Are these signs, will they be maintained over a certain period of time within this package that we're voting on? What about the maintenance? And if so, if it is part of the maintenance, for how long?
I can add, the warranty for these are 2 years, standard warranty within the district-wide. There's an extended warranty through the manufacturers. And I'll let Mr. Barth outline the future maintenance.
Yeah, so part of the bond work that I looked at that you know about, I mentioned this before, was when we do a building, each year we're going to put some money aside to do some landscaping, right? So this project, there is landscaping to be done around the sign, but really is to prepare the area around it for the sign itself. In terms of what I come from, my background was at Oakland University where I did all the grounds work. So if you drive by there, you see how gorgeous the marquees are and all the plantings around it, correct? So that was my intent going forward. The landscaping company is really only there to put the landscaping back to the way it was. Grass around it, make it look, as nice as it can to sort of set off the marquee initially. So maintenance takes over from that point each year and dresses up around the marquee. The signs are large enough where you could put plantings around them, seasonal plantings around them, would look gorgeous. We could do that consistently throughout the district. We don't have to do that, but it's maintenance of facilities group that's going to maintain the signs from the point forward in terms of the visibility, what it looks like to people driving by, and that's really important to us. So to answer your question is, like Aaron said, 2 years in the warranty and the equipment, but from day one, after they get their landscaping done and we approve it, we take over the landscaping piece of it to do whatever we want to do with it.
So let me just ask another question then. What about the Wi-Fi that's built into this? What about the technology that's built into this? Who maintains it if it goes bad?
The Wi-Fi is going to be set up in the schools, obviously in the office, to take care of whatever signs they want to, distribute, or whatever information they want to distribute. However, I'm sure they'll be involved with Wes and IT, Patrick, to be involved with how the Wi-Fi functions, how it maintains, all that's being thought about, that's been thought about in developing this. That's why we went with Wi-Fi in terms of what it can do in the future. I mean, we want something that's not a signal underground, a wire underground to have to maintain or worry about. This is Wi-Fi directed to the sign. So from terms of reliability, that's the way to go right now, and that's what the latest and greatest is for these types of signs. And I will say, and Aaron can probably attest to this, and I live out in Rochester, if you look at the signs out there that are big and they spend a lot of money on these, they look dated now because of pixelation, because they're a little overblown. They don't really look that great, and over time, I think they'll sort of get sick of them. The ones that the district may be hopefully putting in, are gorgeous signs that everybody's going to see. They're going to love them driving by. The pixelation's great. They're going to see information as they drive by, big enough to see it. So, really my recommendation is with the team is this is the best that we could do in terms of how the visibility, bringing the district forward, how it really portrays the district and the schools as you drive by. When you see these signs, you'll look at the school behind it. So that was a thought behind this.
So there's just a 2-year manufacturer warranty on the signs, is what you're saying?
We can verify with the specifications, but in this instance, I believe we may have a few extra years, I believe up to 5 for some components of it. But again, the specifications govern all work that we're doing through the bond. But generally, it's a 2-year warranty for everything unless there's a specific warranty that would extend it. And I do believe there is some coverage beyond 2 years for these signs, and we can get you guys that as well.
Ms. Smith and then Ms. Heinrich.
Aaron, could you step back to the mic? To address the question from the public comment, you are saying that that bid was open to anyone if they wanted to bid on?
It was. The concern is that manufacturers could not bid directly as a sign company. So manufacturers bid to sign companies bid to Farmington Public Schools.
That's what I needed to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the bidder information, and it said for the signage, it said that you had 8 bids. And so those were the contractors that worked with particular manufacturers. So they had a choice of which manufacturer that they based their bid on. They didn't all come from the same manufacturer.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted that to be clarified. So manufacturers had an opportunity to be represented. It just wasn't directly in the bidding process. It was through the signage.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. So the recommended contractor, DMP Sign Company, is using a competitor called Daktronics, and they're another manufacturer. Yes, ma'am.
They're also subcontracting into a company
Excuse me, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just making, that wasn't stated. DMP is in Southfield, but they're subcontractors.
Sir. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, with no other questions, can we please get any, no other discussion? Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Rich?
Yes?
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself, yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to copier equipment and services purchase. Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid award as outlined in the December 1st, 2021 memo from West Prescott for the purchase of copier equipment and services to Toshiba in the amount of $337,750, with funds to come from capital projects, building and site 2018 fund. The district will incur costs of approximately $603,173 for a 5-year period, which includes consumables for each copier, excluding paper, maintenance and paper cut software, funds to come from the general fund.
Support.
Been moved by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
I myself, yes. Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes?
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to bus purchase. Is there a motion? Mr. Walker.
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid award as outlined in the November 16, 2021 memo from Aaron Hill for the purchase of 10 school buses to Hoekstra Transportation Incorporated in the amount of $1,138,427 with funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Walker, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, a roll call, please.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes?
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself?
Need a vote?
Oh, yeah, me, yes. It's been a long night. Motion passes.
Somebody.
I missed you?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Walker.
And that would be a yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Great. And then just to confirm, your vote was a yes?
Yes.
Great. Moving on to policy 5002, fund balance target range. Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the Board of Education adjust the fund balance target range in policy 5002 from 8 to 12% to 10 to 15%.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the November 23rd, 2021 closed session minutes. Ms. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the November 23rd, 2021 closed session minutes as presented.
I'm sorry, could I get that support again?
Support.
Great. It was moved by Ms. Smith, supported by Mr. Walker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving to December 11th, 2021 closed session minutes. Ms. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed final evaluation for the, no, that's not the one? Oh, December 11th one. Oh, I'm sorry. I move that the Board of Education approve the December 11th, 2021 closed session minutes as presented.
Support.
It is moved by Ms. Smith, supported by Mr. Walker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We're going into Superintendent's 2021-2022 final evaluation. Ms. Smith?
I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed superintendent final evaluation for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Support.
It was moved by Ms. Smith and supported by Mr. Walker. Moving into discussion on this item. This is just some updates for the community and all those who were not part of the evaluation meetings. So this is for Dr. Delgado. It's very difficult to evaluate a superintendent within their first 6 months or a little over 6 months, however you want to look at it. But our board did come together. We used the Michigan Association of School Boards criteria and scorecard, and that entire process. That is something that all of us, as part of being a certified board, we also went through the training to use this tool so that we all knew what we were doing, and it wasn't just us trying to make things up. So going through for Dr. Delgado's evaluation, first the score is looked at determining the professional practice rating. That is the first part of the criteria for his evaluation. So that's broken down into 5 sections. Section A, governance and board relations. This is on a scale from 1, which is ineffective, 2 is minimally effective, 3 is effective, and 4 is highly effective. In the category of governance and board relations, which has a weight of 20% in the professional practice rating, he received a 4. In the category of community relations, which is a 15% weight in this category, he received a 4. In C, staff relations, which has a 15% weight, this is broken down into 7 categories. He received a 3.857, so on and so forth, rating. In D, which is business and finance, which is a 20% weight of the professional practice rating, he received a 4. In instructional leadership, that is E, with a 30% weighting, he received a 3.8, with an overall score of 3.918571429, not to be precise or anything. So that is an adjusted score of essentially a 98% in the professional practice rating. Now, that is just one part of the evaluation. There is also other required components. There is the student growth score, which is 40% of the overall weight of the evaluation. So there is a lot that needs to be looked at for how a superintendent's evaluation is done. For us and for this tool, it's 40% is on student growth. Now the question is, how do you, and the question to this board was, how do we score Dr. Delgado on essentially student growth scores from test scores that weren't attributable to him? These were things that happened in the years past. Last year, there weren't a lot of scores done because students weren't necessarily required to take certain required tests to provide some of those data points. So we looked at a district growth model, which is 50%, which was 50% of the rating on the COVID scale, and the other 50% of the student growth score came on demonstrated systems and or plans with their instructional department to move instruction forward. Now, looking at the district growth model, looking back at the past 3 years of data, looking at where our district is and is moving forward to, we gave him an effective rating of 3 points. This is not just a reflection on the superintendent's position. It is also a very thankful representation of how effective our staff has been throughout the past few years, including all of the circumstances that they have had to teach through. And so we thank them for their efforts. And so that provided that strong 3 rating in how the data and test scores line up. That is a very clear-cut, non-subjective number. It's very much a clear number, not something that anyone has any say in. It's where the numbers fall in that range. So that is the effective range. When it comes to the second part, is that 50% on demonstrated systems and or plans with their instructional department to move instruction forward. What we have seen in the time since Dr. Delgado has come on to the board, into the district, and has been meeting with the board, with his cabinet, his administration, all of the staff, we were very pleased to provide a highly effective rating based on the plans that have been put in place through the instructional department. And we look forward to seeing what these plans lead to, but we have very, very high expectations for what we've seen thus far, and are very much happy to provide that highly effective rating. So that essentially averages out to a 3.5 rating with regard to student growth. The final portion, which is the final 10% of the overall evaluation, is progress toward district-wide goals, as Ms. Weems was able to present tonight, through the work with our board, through the work with his cabinet, looking at the 90-day plan and crossing off goals left and right, starting off, and continuing with that momentum moving forward. The board was very, very happy to assign a highly effective rating in that category as well. So when compiling the evaluation, looking at the professional practice, which was those first 5 categories, which have a weight of 50% in the overall rating, that was about a 3.9185 for that component score. There was student growth, which is 40%, which is that 3.5 score, and then progress toward district goals, which is 10%, which he received a 4. The overall total score was a 3.759 continuing, or when that's divided by 4, it gives us a 93.98%, and a 90 to 100% is a highly effective rating. So the presented evaluation score is a highly effective rating for Dr. Delgado. With all that being said, there were many comments and expectations for moving forward. As Dr. Delgado knows, being part of these conversations and things that the board is looking forward to seeing moving forward, we would like some of these scores to be slam dunks moving forward, and we are very much looking forward to seeing what you do with the direction that the board has done or has given you. Is there any other discussion based on that? I know I have just said a lot, so I am very much happy to allow anyone else to say their piece. Yes, Ms. Smith?
I'd like to say congratulations to Dr. Delgado in his leadership in coming into a board that we have had some challenges, and to come through a district right now during the COVID and other issues, you have scored over and beyond. We appreciate you. We thank you for your service and being part of Farmington's finest, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments or discussion, can we have a roll call vote, please, on a highly effective rating for Dr. Delgado?
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Heinrich, I'm ready to call you Dr. Heinrich.
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Walker, I'm not going to forget you this time.
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
I already said yes.
Oh, well, I'm suffering from these allergies, I'm sorry. And I myself, yes, absolutely. Motion passes.
Congratulations, Dr. Delgado. This is a reflection not just on you, but on your cabinet and all of the staff in Farmington Public Schools. So thank you very much. Do you have any comments or anything like that?
Absolutely. I was going to say the same. It's, our efforts are shared efforts, and they're really going to change the lives of children and support families. And so I'm appreciative of the entire cabinet, the entire administrative and staff team here in FBS. I want to thank you all again for such a warm welcome to the district, for your confidence in me, for your support. of me and partnership. And I'm blessed to be here, and I'm humbled by your kind words and your highly effective writing. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to items from the treasurer, Ms. Heinrich.
Yes, I have a report on expenditures. I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated December 14th, 2021 as follows. General Fund, $12,596,926. General Fund Athletics, $108,449. Debt Fund, 0. Capital Projects, Technology and Other Projects, 0. Capital Projects, 2018 Bond Fund, $121,317. Capital Projects 2020 Bond Fund, $136,307. Nutrition Services Fund, $239,796. Benefit Stabilization Fund, $1,065,111, for a total of $14,267,906.
Support.
It was moved by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. Mr. Walker.
I move that the Board of Education approve the December 14th, 2021 consent agenda as follows. Item A, approval of minutes for November 23rd, special meeting, November 23rd, regular meeting, December 11th, board retreat, and December 11th, special meeting, all 2021. And item B, personnel items.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Walker, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to reports from board representatives. Ms. Heinrich and then Ms. Smith.
I have a report from the Oakland County School Board Association DEI Committee. In 2020, the Oakland County School Board Association approved the ad hoc DEI committee. And when it comes to, and the Board of Directors had a meeting, a recent meeting, and they made these points that when it comes to DEI work, each of the 28 districts is unique, and they're on a different place in the DEI journey, and we can't move at all one speed. And they pointed out that each district sets its priorities, and those are unique with each community. They said that boards and superintendents have a collective responsibility to tend to our own learning regarding equity and inclusion. And I think that's evident in our district. DEI and equity is everyone's job, and it's not a one and done. It's not, we did this and so we can check that box off. It's something that's embedded in our culture. And it's something that we continue to learn and grow as we go through. And so the Board of Directors decided to shift the focus on the DEI work from committee work into professional development that benefits all of the school board members. And so they're going to, so what they're recommending is that the DEI ad hoc committee disband, or their work is done, and move it in a different direction. And so that's what I am reporting on from that perspective. That's okay.
Okay. I sit on the representative for early childhood. So the early childhood committee we'll have an update from them next month. So they wanted to let you know the early childhood would have a update next month. Also, I know I'm not the rep for FAPN, but I had the opportunity to talk to their leaders this week. They will be starting they're working in steps. So what they'll be doing is starting in January, they will start back their tutoring, in their tutoring program. So they're looking for tutorers. They will let us know when they are going to start that back up. So they will be needing tutorers for all age levels, especially now during COVID, what have you. So yeah, that's what FAPN is working on now. And that's it.
Thank you. Seeing no other reports, are there any recommendations for future agenda items? Seeing none, we're moving into good and welfare. Ms. Smith.
I had the opportunity last night to go over to Warner Middle School to their orchestra concert, and it's led by Cindy Campbell. It was really nice to see the 8th graders perform. Last night, they dedicated a song to the students of Oxford. So this is affecting everyone. That was a great time to go out and get to see the students, get to see parents, and, you know, have conversations with people of the community. A few nights back, I can't remember the dates, but I was able to go to the City of Lights of Farmington Hills and like the Christmas lights with the mayor, and it was awesome to see our high schoolers from Farmington High to perform and sing a couple of songs and get to see Santa with the little kids and just have a great time. It's so good to see little ones now out and about. So that's pretty much my good and welfare. Thank you.
Any other good and welfare? Okay, then I would like to say first, congratulations to Dr. Delgado on a highly effective rating. We can't stress that enough. This is it's a tremendous amount of trust that a school board puts in a superintendent that they hire. And so thank you for being a good steward of that trust.
Thank you.
As we move into the holiday season, and we're already through a good chunk of the holiday season, I wanted to wish everyone a happy holidays for whatever it is that you celebrate. Please be safe over the holiday season. Please get your vaccines, flu vaccine, COVID vaccine. That's how we can keep people safe throughout this entire time. Please be safe, be happy. Please get some good rest over the break. I know everyone desperately needs it. And so we look forward to seeing everyone in January. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.